They've been watching you longer than you realize. Not with eyes, but with something far more precise. Every breakdown you survived in silence. Every betrayal you endured without revenge. Every moment you chose truth over comfort. It was all being documented. Not by chance, not by coincidence, but by design. And now, after years of testing, isolation and pressure that should have shattered you, the verdict is in. You passed, but what comes next? What you're about to hear will rewrite everything you thought you knew about why your life unfolded the way it did. This isn't motivation, this is confirmation. And, chosen one, buckle up, because the truth they've been holding back is about to flood through you like lightning through water. Let me ask you something that's been gnawing at your soul for years. Why does it always feel like you're being watched, studied, measured against some invisible standard nobody else seems to notice? Why do the simplest things that coast for others turn into battlefields for you? Why does every relationship, every opportunity, every door you approach come with a test attached? It's because you were never walking a normal path. You were walking an examination, and every obstacle, every enemy, every sleepless night was a question on a test you didn't even know you were taking. But here's the brutal truth they kept from you. You weren't just passing time, you were passing levels, and the results just came back. Thank you for being here, chosen one. I need you to do something before we go further. Press like on this message and subscribe, because what you're about to receive isn't entertainment, it's intel. And the more people who hear this, the more souls break free from the lie that they're just surviving. You're not just watching a message, you're activating a frequency. So claim your place in this mission. Drop the number 777 in the comments if you can feel this truth moving through your chest right now. Let's lock in, because I'm about to take you somewhere most people will never go. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal in the final section will shake you to your core. Let's begin. You thought life was punishing you, but punishment doesn't refine, it destroys. What you went through wasn't designed to break you. It was designed to build something inside you that most humans will never access. Think about every moment you felt alone, overlooked, misunderstood. Those weren't accidents. Those were conditions. Controlled environments where your true nature could be observed without interference. They needed to see how you'd move when no one was clapping. They needed to watch how you'd heal when no one offered a hand. They needed proof that you could carry weight in silence and still choose integrity over revenge. And you did. Every single time. But let's be honest, there were moments you almost quit, weren't there? Moments where the weight felt unbearable, where the betrayals cut so deep you questioned if staying kind was even worth it. You looked around and saw people thriving on lies, succeeding through manipulation, laughing while stepping on others, and you wondered, what's the point of being good if evil gets rewarded? That's the exact moment the test got harder. Because the universe wasn't just measuring your strength. It was measuring your refusal to become what hurt you, and every time you held the line, every time you chose not to retaliate, not to gossip, not to sink to their level, you passed another layer of the exam. Here's what they never told you. The test wasn't about perfection. It was about pattern. They weren't looking for someone who never fell. They were looking for someone who fell and still got back up. Someone who cried in private but smiled in public. Someone who lost everything but refused to lose themselves. That's the rarest kind of soul. The one that bends under pressure but doesn't break. The one that bleeds but doesn't poison others with bitterness. The one that bleeds but doesn't poison others with bitterness. The one that walks through fire and comes out holding water instead of matches. That's you. And every obstacle you survived was a data point proving you were built for something greater than survival. You were built for leadership. Now let me tell you what was happening behind the scenes while you thought you were failing. Every person who betrayed you was placed there to test your forgiveness. Every door that closed in your face was testing your faith in timing. Every moment of isolation was testing whether you could stand alone without losing your mind. Every financial struggle was testing whether you'd compromise your values for comfort. Every emotional wound was testing whether you'd turn bitter or wiser. And here's the part that will blow your mind. You passed every single one. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but authentically. And authenticity under pressure is the rarest form of power. Isolation wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And the reason they had to separate you from everyone else is because what you're about to step into cannot be contaminated by mediocrity. Think about it. Why were you always the odd one out? Why did friendships that should have lasted dissolve into nothing? Why did family members who should have understood you become strangers? Because the universe was pulling you out of environments that would have kept you small. You weren't being rejected, you were being protected. And the loneliness you felt wasn't abandonment. It was incubation. Seeds don't grow in crowds. They grow in soil, alone, under pressure, in the dark. But isolation does something most people never survive. It forces you to face yourself without distraction. No validation to numb the pain, no crowd to hide behind, no noise to drown out the questions. Just you and the mirror. And in that space, you had to answer the hardest question of all. Who am I when no one's watching? Most people crumble under that weight. They run to anything that makes them feel seen, relationships that drain them, jobs that kill their spirit, distractions that keep them numb. But you didn't. You sat in the silence. You wrestled with your demons. You healed wounds nobody even knew you had. And that kind of inner work created a foundation so strong that nothing external can shake it. Here's what the isolation revealed about you. You don't need an audience to have value. You don't need applause to know your worth. You don't need validation to move forward. That's terrifying to people who base their entire identity on how others see them. That's why they couldn't stay around you. Your presence reminded them of everything they were too afraid to face in themselves. Your peace exposed their chaos. Your silence exposed their noise. Your growth exposed their stagnation. And instead of rising with you, they resented you for making them feel small just by being whole. That's not your fault. That's their verdict. And now you understand why they had to remove certain people from your life before you could move forward. They weren't bad people. They were wrong assignments. Some were meant to teach you discernment. Others were meant to show you what you'd tolerate. A few were sent to expose patterns you needed to break. But none of them were built to walk with you into what's coming next, because what's ahead requires a level of clarity, focus, and spiritual hygiene that most people will never achieve. You can't carry dead weight into elevation. The universe knew that. So it stripped everyone away who would have slowed you down, distracted you, or diluted your frequency. And yes, it hurt. But it saved you. Something changed in you recently, didn't it? Not overnight, but gradually, like a radio dial slowly turning from static to signal. People started looking at you differently. Rooms shifted when you entered. Conversations quieted when you spoke. Even strangers felt something they couldn't name. That's because you didn't just heal, you upgraded. Your entire energetic signature rewired itself. And now you operate on a frequency most humans can't even detect, let alone understand. That's why old connections feel hollow. That's why small talk exhausts you. That's why you can't fake interest in things that used to matter. You're not being difficult. You're being incompatible with lower vibrations. But here's where it gets interesting. This shift didn't happen because you chased it. It happened because you survived what should have destroyed you. Every betrayal you forgave raised your frequency. Every lie you refused to tell kept your signal clean. Every boundary you enforced protected your energy field. Every time you chose solitude over toxic company, you tuned yourself to a different station. And now you're broadcasting on a wavelength that only attracts what's real. That's why fake people can't breathe around you. That's why manipulators glitch in your presence. That's why liars stumble over their words. Your frequency exposes counterfeit energy the way light exposes shadows. Now let me tell you what this means for your future. You will never fit into spaces designed for survival anymore. You've graduated from that level. From this point forward, you'll only be called into rooms where strategy matters, where vision is required, where leadership is non-negotiable. You're not being invited to participate, you're being summoned to lead, and the people who once overlooked you will suddenly remember your name, not because you begged for recognition, but because your frequency started speaking a language they can't ignore. That's the power of alignment. It doesn't beg, it commands. And you finally stepped into the frequency where doors don't open because you knock. They open because you arrive. But with this frequency shift comes a responsibility most people aren't ready for. You can't move in this space and still play small. You can't vibrate at this level and still people please. You can't carry this energy and still tolerate disrespect. The upgrade demands that you honor it. That means saying no without explanation. That means walking away without closure. That means letting people misunderstand you without defending yourself. Because the truth is, anyone vibrating on your frequency won't need an explanation. They'll just know. And anyone who doesn't get it isn't meant to. The separation has already begun. And it's permanent. They saw it before you did. The glow, the knowing, the unshakable calm that comes from walking through hell and refusing to become a demon. They watched you survive things that destroyed others. They watched you rebuild after betrayals that would have turned most people into bitter shells. They watched you extend grace to people who deserved judgment, and they knew. You weren't ordinary. You weren't average. You weren't just another soul stumbling through existence. You were a walking contradiction to everything broken systems rely on, and that made you dangerous. Dangerous to lies, dangerous to manipulation, dangerous to anyone profiting off keeping people small. But you didn't see it, did you? You thought you were just getting by, just surviving another day, just trying to stay sane in a world that felt like it was designed to break you. You looked in the mirror and saw flaws, scars, mistakes. You replayed every failure, every rejection, every moment you wished you'd done differently. You doubted your worth, your purpose, your right to even take up space. And all the while they were watching you carry light into the darkest places without realizing you were the light. That's the cruelest part of being chosen. You're the last one to know. Everyone else sees the glow, you just feel the burn. Here's what they saw that you missed. They saw someone who refused to become what hurt them. They saw someone who chose honesty when lies would have been easier. They saw someone who stayed soft in a hard world without becoming weak. They saw someone who could hold pain without passing it on. They saw someone who could sit in darkness without becoming it. That's not common. That's not luck. That's design. You were engineered to hold weight others collapse under. You were built to stand where others fall. You were coded to heal where others hurt. And now the universe is ready to tell you why. Because what comes next requires someone who's been tested at every level and still chose integrity. Someone who's been broken and still chose kindness. Someone who's been betrayed and still chose trust. Someone who's been alone and still chose faith. That's you. You passed the test nobody told you about. And now you're about to step into the role they've been preparing you for all along. But before you can fully walk into it, you need to understand what you're walking into. Because this isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone you're about to influence, heal, and lead. The weight is real, but so is the covering. And you're about to find out exactly how deep that covering goes. This is where everything shifts. Up until now, you've been in training, but training is over. You passed. And now the assignments begin. Not the kind of assignments you apply for, but the kind that find you. The kind that wake you up in the middle of the night with clarity that wasn't there yesterday. The kind that put people in your path who need exactly what you carry. The kind that opened doors you didn't knock on and closed doors you thought you wanted. You're about to step into roles you never auditioned for, and the universe doesn't send scripts, it sends signals. Your job is to move when you feel the pull. First, you'll become the voice for the silenced. People who've been gaslit, manipulated, and convinced they're crazy will hear you speak and feel seen for the first time. You'll say things they've been screaming in silence for years. You'll name things they thought only they experienced. And your words won't just comfort them, they'll activate them. Because you're not here to rescue people, you're here to remind them they never needed rescuing. They just needed someone to confirm they weren't losing their minds. That's you. Your story, your survival, your scars, they're not just yours anymore. They're evidence. And evidence wakes people up faster than any sermon ever could. Second, you'll become the mirror that exposes, not in cruelty, but in clarity. Your presence alone will start revealing who people really are. The fakes will distance themselves. The manipulators will glitch. The envious will expose themselves through their reactions to your rise. You won't have to call anyone out. Your energy will do it. And some will hate you for it. They'll twist your boundaries into arrogance. They'll rewrite your peace as coldness. They'll paint your discernment as judgment. Let them, because the ones who are real will see you clearly, and they'll protect your name the way you protected your peace. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be true, and truth always divides before it unites. Third, you'll become the bridge between worlds. You've walked through both the broken and the whole. You've lived in darkness and stepped into light. You've felt the weight of despair and the freedom of clarity. That makes you bilingual. You speak the language of pain and the language of power. You can sit with someone in their mess without judgment and show them the way out without preaching. That's rare. Most people who heal forget what the wound felt like, but you won't, because your assignment requires you to remember. You're not here to stand on a stage and inspire from a distance. You're here to walk into the trenches and pull people out by showing them you survived the same war. And finally, you'll become the proof that transformation is real. People don't need another theory. They need living evidence. They need to see someone who bled, broke, and rebuilt. Someone who lost everything and still found peace. Someone who was counted out and still rose. That's you. Your life is no longer just your story. It's a testimony. And every room you enter, every conversation you have, every choice you make from this point forward carries weight. Not because you're perfect, but because you're proof. Proof that healing is possible. Proof that integrity still exists. Proof that choosing yourself isn't selfish. Proof that the ones who are written off can rewrite the ending. You are the evidence. And evidence doesn't argue, it just exists, and existence is enough. Now we get to the part they waited to tell you. The reason your life unfolded the way it did. The reason you were isolated, tested, and pushed to the edge repeatedly. It wasn't random. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't even about you learning lessons. It was about proving you could hold power without abusing it. Because what you're about to receive isn't just influence. It's access. Access to rooms where decisions are made. Access to people who move in silence but shift nations. Access to resources that don't get advertised. Access to a level of life where your word carries weight and your presence demands respect. But that kind of access requires vetting. And you just passed the most brutal vetting process the universe could design. Think about it. They had to know you wouldn't sell out. They had to know money wouldn't corrupt you. They had to know fame wouldn't intoxicate you. They had to know power wouldn't twist you. So they put you through scenarios where you had nothing and still chose integrity. Where you had every reason to lie and still told the truth. Where you had every excuse to be bitter and still chose kindness. Where you could have leveraged people's weaknesses and still extended grace. Every single test was designed to answer one question. Can this soul be trusted with power? And your life answered yes. Not with words, with evidence. Here's what they discovered about you that most people will never understand. You don't need control to feel powerful. You don't need validation to know your worth. You don't need revenge to feel healed. You don't need to be seen to know you matter. That's the rarest form of maturity. And it's the only kind of maturity that can be trusted with influence. Because people who need power will abuse it. People who need recognition will manipulate for it. People who need control will destroy to keep it. But people who've found peace in the absence of all those things, those are the ones who can hold power without becoming monsters. That's you. And that's why you passed. Now let me tell you what's about to happen. Doors that were locked for years will swing open overnight. People who ignored you will suddenly remember your name. Opportunities that seemed impossible will land in your lap, with ease. Resources will flow from directions you didn't even know existed, and it won't feel earned, it'll feel like magic. But it's not magic. It's alignment. It's the universe finally releasing what it's been holding for you because you're finally ready to receive it without losing yourself in it. You've been promoted. Not because you begged for it, but because you proved you could handle it. And everything you went through was preparation for this exact moment. But here's the warning. With this level of access comes a new level of warfare. The enemies you face now won't be obvious. They'll come disguised as opportunities. They'll wear the mask of friendship. They'll speak the language of support. But their assignment will be the same: to distract you, drain you, and derail you before you fully step into what's yours. So you need to move differently now. Question everything. Trust selectively. Protect your energy fiercely, because you're no longer just walking your path. You're carrying a mission that threatens systems built on lies, and those systems will send everything they have to stop you. Not because you're a threat to people, but because you're a threat to the illusion. And when illusions crumble, the ones profiting from them panic. Let's talk about what's inside you that nobody could give you, teach you, or take from you. It's not skill. It's not talent. It's not even wisdom. It's something deeper. It's the ability to see through lies instantly, to sense intentions before words are spoken, to feel energy shifts in rooms most people don't even notice, to know when someone's truth doesn't match their story. That's not something you studied. That's something you survived into. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every lie made your intuition louder. Every fake smile taught you to read beneath the surface. And now you carry a level of perception most people will never access. You're not paranoid. You're precise. But this gift comes with a burden. You can't unsee what you see. You can't unhear what you hear. You can't unfeel what you sense. That's why small talk exhausts you. That's why surface-level friendships feel empty. That's why you'd rather be alone than around people who aren't being real. Because your system rejects anything inauthentic. It's like trying to eat spoiled food. Your body knows instantly, your spirit does the same. It rejects toxicity, manipulation, and pretense automatically. And that's why you've felt so alone. Not because you're hard to love, but because most people are still learning to be honest with themselves. And you're already fluent in truth. Here's what that means for your future. You will become the person people come to when they need to hear what's real. Not what's comfortable, not what's popular, but what's true. You won't be everyone's favorite, but you'll be the one they trust when everything else is falling apart. Because people know, even if they won't admit it, that you don't sugarcoat, you don't manipulate, and you don't lie to protect feelings. You tell the truth. And truth, even when it stings, is what sets people free. That's your assignment. Not to comfort people in their illusions, but to dismantle the illusions so they can finally breathe. And here's the secret they don't tell you about carrying this level of perception. It makes you dangerous to systems built on deception, because you can walk into any space and within minutes identify what's real and what's performance. You can spot the manipulator in the room. You can sense the agenda beneath the smile. You can feel when something's off, even if everyone else is convinced everything's fine. That's why they tried so hard to break you. Because if you ever fully stepped into this power, if you ever trusted what you see and stopped second-guessing yourself, you'd become unstoppable. Well, guess what? You just did. And now they're terrified. This is it, the truth they've been holding until you were ready to hear it without breaking. You weren't just passing a test, you were being initiated. Into what? Into a lineage of souls who've walked this exact path across every generation. The ones who get targeted early, the ones who face the hardest battles, the ones who survive what destroys others. The ones who rise when the world says it's impossible. You're not the first, you won't be the last. But you are the one standing here right now. And that means everything that came before you, every ancestor who bled for truth, every soul who chose integrity over comfort, they all passed something down to you, and you just activated it. This isn't about religion. This isn't about belief systems. This is about recognition. You've been recognized by forces most people don't believe in until they experience them. And now you carry a responsibility, not to save the world, but to be the light that reminds people they can save themselves. Not to have all the answers, but to ask the right questions. Not to lead everyone, but to lead the ones who are ready. And chosen one, they're already looking for you. The ones who feel lost, the ones who feel broken, the ones who've been through hell and don't know if they'll survive. The ones who held, who raised you up. The ones who held. The ones who feel broken. The ones who've been through hell and don't know if they'll survive. They're searching for proof that healing is real, and you're about to become that proof. So, here's what happens next. You stop hiding, you stop shrinking, you stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop watering yourself down to make others comfortable. You stop questioning whether you're ready, because you are, you passed. And now you step fully into what you are always meant to be, a voice, a force, a frequency, a reminder that light still exists, that truth still matters, that integrity still wins, that healing is possible, that transformation is real, and that no matter how dark it gets, there are souls who refuse to become what hurt them. That's you, and the world needs you now more than ever. You passed, chosen one. Now go show them what happens when someone who's been through hell refuses to bring the fire back with them. Show them what power looks like when it's been tested. Show them what peace looks like after war. Show them what love looks like after betrayal. Show them what love looks like after betrayal. Show them what strength looks like after breaking. You are the proof. Now live like it. Brea Treeclaw can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.